He's got the professional stunt driver Sam Mayer-Lochnan and precision driver alongside him as off they go on their formation lap. And now that they are on their formation lap, I can very shortly guide you through the grid and the way that they will line up for this one. So let's have a quick look at the grid for round 11 of the 2023 GT Cup Championship. On pole position, it is Mark Radcliffe, and alongside is going to be the Mercedes of Sam Mayer-Lochnan. Row 2 of the grid is the McLaren of Matt Topham, and for company he has got the Audi R8 in the hands of Sasha Kakad. Row 3 of the grid, it's the BMW of Darren Leung that sits alongside the McLaren of Simon Orange. And row 4, that's where we see Seamus Jennings behind the wheel of the GCAT Racing Porsche. And for company, he's got Gilbert Yates at the wheel of the first of the cars in Group GTC, the Lamborghini. Andre Borodin is there on the inside of row number 5 with Paul Bailey at the wheel of the Lamborghini for company. And then it's Russ Lindsay on row number 6 alongside the BMW of Chris Murphy. As we head off the 6th row and onto row number 7, it's John Curry in the first of the 2 Make Happen Racing Mercedes. He's got Ed Bridle's Mercedes for company. And then the 8th row of the grid, it's Philip Carter in the Greystone McLaren alongside Stephen Walton in the second of the 2 Make Happen Racing Mercs. Next up, it's Tim Docker in the McLaren alongside the number 76 car, which will be Kev Clark. And James Guess starts in the Feathers Motorsport Aston Martin at the tail end of the field, which did stop on the outlap out of the pit piers, but did make it to the grid.
You'll have to tell me a bit more about that, because we only heard through our ear that it stopped on circuit. Do you know what happened?
Stopped coming out of Richie's corner. All of a sudden it ground to a halt. The marshal started to push it, and the next shot we saw, it was under its own steam again, continuing around the track. So it is there, but I can only imagine Alt Control Delete, reset the car, fires up again. Yeah,
strange, isn't it, how sometimes that can happen. Hopefully it can continue the rest of the race, because obviously they're right up there in the championship standings. And we heard from James Guess on the grid. He's a little bit put out by potentially some of the bouncer performance that's been going on, but he's still going to give it his absolute all. And his, of course, later on we'll see his co-driver Tom Cannon go out there and give it everything for another strong result for them.
You can never ask a driver about balance of performance and them ever be happy. No racing driver is ever happy about balance of performance, because they all want to go quick.
Because also they know that if they say, yeah, I'm very happy with the balance of performance, then everyone else will jump on it and go, well, they're clearly too fast.
So they're getting themselves into neat 2x2 order. Remember, this is a sprint race, so it's a 25-minute race. There's no driver changes like we'll see later on this afternoon. So the drivers that are in the cars now are the drivers that will be in the car for the whole of this race, and we'll have to wait and see as to who comes out on top. We've seen 2 wins for the Orange Racing powered by JMH McLaren so far this weekend in the 2 of yesterday's races. Well, that car starts 6th on the grid this time, so there's a chunk of work to do there. So Mark Radcliffe in the orange McLaren on pole, the black and red Mercedes of Sam Mayer-Lochnan alongside, orange and white for Matt Topham alongside the white and red car of Sasha Kakad. Neat 2x2 order, and the red lights are on the gantry, and we're about to get round 11 of the 2023 GT Cup Championship underway here. Both front row men match each other for pace, but Mark Radcliffe has the all-important inside line as they head up towards Richie's corner. Sam Mayer-Lochnan sweeps his way round the outside though. The Mercedes picks up the early lead and is going to lead the charge as they head up towards the Wilson hairpin for the first time, onto the brakes and in towards the right-hander. Sam Mayer-Lochnan leads the way, and Mark Radcliffe could not convert pole position to the early race lead.
Not quite. It's a good move for the lead there, and we also saw the BMW of Lung going wide at the first hairpin, but managing to maintain his position.
So down the straight and towards Agostini they thread their way. Mark Radcliffe still under pressure from Simon Orange, actually, who's there in 3rd place. So a brilliant start from Simon Orange, 6th on the grid, up to 3rd already. So he really managed to see the gaps open up ahead of him and utilised every opportunity to squeeze his way through. Further down through the order, still leading Group GTC in the early stages, will be Gilbert Yates at the wheel of the Top Cats Racing Lamborghini. There's Russ Lindsay, the man who was hoping to try and mount a challenge for Group GTC, but he's just that little bit further back at this stage.
Yeah, we saw him a moment ago into Agostini having a lunge up the inside of one of the Group GTH GT4 cars, but now we can see already on the back of one of the Make Happen cars is, Darren Lung is going slow.
He is, yeah. The BMW really, really slow. Well spotted peers down the Bentley straight. But by the time they get towards Brundle and Nelson, he's back up to pace once more. Was he just trying to stay out of trouble and didn't want to get involved?
Not sure what's going on there, but I was about to say before I just jumped in on myself to see that Darren Lung was going slow, was that the Aston Martin of James Guess is right on the back of one of the Make Happen GT4s already.
Yeah, so brilliant stuff from James Guess, looking to carve his way through the order. and as they head over the start-finish line to complete the first lap of the race, Sam Mayer-Lachlan, the Irishman, leads the way at this stage. Mark Ratcliffe, the former Porsche Super Cup racer, there in second place. Simon Orange, multiple champion in GT Cup, sits there in third place. Matt Topham, reigning GT4 Pro-Am champion in the British GT Championship, sits there in fourth place. Sasha Kakad's fifth. Darren Leung, British GT Championship winner from earlier on this season, completes the top six at the moment. Seamus Jennings, the man from Belfast at the wheel of the GCAT Racing Porsche, is there in seventh place, and Gilbert Yates is mixing it with him. Gilbert was saying pre-race, wasn't he? He's mixing it with the GT3 cars. Well, absolutely. The Group GTC leader is on the coattails of a GT3 car.
I was about to say exactly the same thing, Mark. He said on the grid, you know what, I'm quite enjoying getting stuck in with some GT3s, and there he is, getting stuck in with that Porsche 9, I'm not sure which, 99... I always get confused.
992, I would imagine it is. Yeah, I imagine, I'm the same. I do get confused.
So many 998, I don't know.
It's a Porsche.
It's a Porsche GT3 car, and it looks great.
And sounds fantastic with the flat six engine. So it is Sam Mayer-Lachlan still leading the way, having to push hard. 22 minutes of the race to go. No obvious signs of any further issues for Darren Leung at the wheel of the BMW. So here's on the coattails of this train of cars. So it's sort of the top six that have broken away in reality, isn't it, as they all head down in towards Brundle and Nelson, which must be an amazing corner to head into, Brundle and Nelson, when you've got all of that GT3 power and downforce heading in towards that tricky section of the circuit. Braking
and turning while also hooking the curb up there, and also then trying to get it stopped, and then weight transfer into the right-hander as well, while missing the big sausage curb on the inside. Now, it's a great section of circuit, and I've definitely attested the driver's skills through there, because you are balancing on the limit of adhesion in a number of different ways through that section, and it is an overtaking opportunity into there, but you kind of have to get alongside before the braking zone. You can't really send it from behind, but Mayer-Lachlan seems like he's had a good first section of, or good second half of that lap, and has pulled a bit of a gap to Radcliffe in second place.
Yeah, and Simon Orange is there in third place at the moment and has just set the fastest lap of the race, 1 minute 49.396. So that's the first of the flying laps, and that is not slow at all. So going really, really well. Here's the number 67 car in the hands of Simon Orange, who last weekend was busy supporting the rugby team which he co-owns, the Sale Sharks, who unfortunately didn't quite get the result they wanted last weekend, but Simon said either way it's still a good weekend. He thoroughly enjoyed it.
No, I'm glad he enjoyed it, and it's good to have him back in the championship once again. You know, he's a very, very passionate racer, and part of the championship, as we see now, Kakad having a look up the inside of Topham.
Yeah, did he make it through? Did the Audi go through and ahead of the McLaren? No, it did not. So Matt Topham just about able to hang on to the place still. The Audi R8 of Sasha Kakad from Cook Sport still rather frustratingly sitting there in fifth place, as the leaders again, with 20 minutes to go, start to head down the Bentley Straight. Brilliant squabble at the front for GT3, but let's pick up on other class leaders at the moment. Leading Group GTC is Gilbert Yates down in 8th position at the moment. Leading Group GTO is Paul Bailey in the Lamborghini down in 10th position, and leading Group GTH at this stage is the number 96 John Curry driven Mercedes AMG GT4, albeit James Guess is now up to second in that group and is hunting him down.
Clearly fired up after being unhappy with his balance of performance. Clearly the balance of performance isn't too bad, because he's right on the back of the AMGs.
And no obvious signs of what ground him to a halt on the outlap.
No, it's clearly just cleared itself up, or maybe he just needed a rest.
There they are, just heading through shot now. Good fight going on for third and fourth in Group GTH at the moment. That is Simon Walton in the number 69 Mercedes. He's got Philip Carter weaving around behind him at the wheel of the Greystone number 14 McLaren. Not that far off those is Chris Murphy's BMW that runs in Group GTO, and he's largely been around that battle all of the time, hasn't he, Chris Murphy? I was chatting to him last night and he said absolutely loved the squabbles that he was having. He knows he's not competitive in the group he's in, but he's thoroughly enjoying just racing with anybody that's around him.
That's an amazing thing about this championship. We mentioned it yesterday, the fact that you can just race. There's so many different groups, and you don't have to even race cars against in your own group. You can just have a good battle in amazing cars on great circuits on a weekend like this at Snetterton, which is a lovely late spring or early summer day, and you know, great place to be.
We've had a couple of changes of position there. Gilbert Yates at the wheel of the Group GTC leading Lamborghini is now ahead of the Porsche of Seamus Jennings, and now we've also got a fight for the lead of Group GTH beginning to hot up. This is third and fourth in Group GTH, but just ahead of them, James Guess has almost caught John Curry now, so the Mercedes just heads out of Palmer there, and then you can see the white and the blue and the Dayglow orange flashes of the Aston Martin of James Guess edging ever closer to the Group GTH leader.
pushing very hard into the braking zone of the Agostini hairpin there, going deep and cutting back for an exit, and all of them adhering to the new track limits. They're just onto the curb but not past it. Good to see. And of course, in this shorter race, less of an issue because you can have a couple of excursions before you get a penalty. But in the endurance pit stop race later on, they'll have to be watching out for those track limits because it is per car, not per driver.
Yeah, and of course, you're putting the tyres through a bit more punishment as well in that longer race. So the car's going to react very differently over a 50-minute race than it will with the drop-off over the course of a 25-minute race. So down towards the bottom section of the Bentley Straight, we can see the Group GTH leading battle ever forming. Still John Curry leading it at the moment, but James Guess is closing up, maybe an extra car length taken out over the course of that lap. Then we've got Stephen Walton still fighting away with Philip Carter. Chris Murphy in the BMW's not too far away. Then Tim Docker and Ed Bridle in his Mercedes squabbling away. Another McLaren and Mercedes squabble going on there, and that will be for position in Group GTH once more, won't it? So that will be for 5th and 6th in Group GTH, those two fighting away.
Ed Bridle just having a sniff up the inside of Coram and then pulling out of it and having to get on the brakes a little bit early. Clearly feels like he's faster at this stage of the race. It's not actually that easy to overtake in pretty much the second half of the lap around Snetterton. It's all very much sort of one line unless you get an overlap. As we see, that is the Greystone GT having a look around the outside of the Make Happen Racing AMG. That'll be a bold move to get that done, and he does. Or it's still not done yet though, because once you're on the marbles, you've got less grip on the outside. Nearly around the outside of Richards, and there is the BMW getting stuck in.
So Philip Carter tried it, it didn't work, and then straight away from attack you go towards defence to stop Chris Murphy coming through. That little bit of a squabble has also allowed the likes of Tim Docker in the number 78 Paddock Motorsport McLaren to close in, and of course he's got right with him Ed Bridle in the 24/7 Mercedes. So no matter where you look, there are fights going on at the moment. So this train of 5 cars heading down towards us at the moment. The interloper amongst them all is the Group GTO BMW, who has left the door open. Tim Docker takes the opportunity, squeezes his way up the inside. Chris Murphy saw him coming there, then runs wide coming out of the corner. 2 places lost because Ed Bridle in the Merc goes through as well.
That was a very robust move at the inside by Tim Docker there, but it's a good move going in late, and at least the BMW saw him. But now Ed Bridle is going to be on the back once again of Docker in the McLaren. He's got an overlap here, has he? Yes, he has. No, he hasn't.
Yeah, I thought he was through. I was the same as you. I thought he'd got enough of an overlap there to squeeze his way through, but Tim Docker, former Volkswagen Cup racer, having none of it at all. Now in a straight line, of course, the BMW has extra grunt and carves his way back past the Group GTH cars. So Group GTH for those cars that comply with the GT4 homologation. So one more place picked up by Chris Murphy there. However, his car is quick in a straight line. Is it quite as nimble through the twiddly parts? Because it's an older car. Yes, it's been well developed over the years, but it's maybe not quite as nimble as some of the more modern GT4 machinery we've got.
Yeah, it does look very, very cool though, that BMW. It's got lots of different splitters and louvers and wings,
dive planes,
and it does look really cool. Kind of almost looks like one of those hill climb cars that they have in Europe and stuff.
Yeah,
sounds great as well. The big V8 as it goes past.
Yeah, the M3 GTR heads over the start-finish line. Is he going to pick up another place here? Let's just have a quick look. He's closing in on Tim Docker's number 78 McLaren, but no, he hasn't got enough of the centre straight to be able to squeeze his way through. Back to the overall race leaders with 14 minutes to go. Last time through, we had a new fastest lap of the race, and where did it go? It went the way of the 5th place Audi of Sasha Kakad. 1 minute 48.238 from Sasha Kakad, and it's the lead 3 now that have got away, because in 4th place Matt Topham is, by the look of things, just as he came out of Brundle and Nelson, if anything, overdriving the McLaren a bit there, because that was a bit of a skip sideways, wasn't he, on throttle?
Definitely a skip sideways on throttle, clearly pushing hard on the exit for any lap time to get on the back of that orange Radcliffe and Mayor Loughlin group ahead. It's not a massive gap, it's only, what is that, a second and a half or so, but it looks pretty big on circuit.
Yep, so over the start-finish line they'll come. That's now 6 laps completed. Sam Mayer-Loughlin leading the way from Mark Radcliffe. Simon Orange not too far away. Remember, Simon Orange is a multiple champion in GT Cup. He's been in the series for a good number of years now. He was the overall champion last year and in 2020 as well. He's the only ever double champion that we've had, actually. Won the GT3 category as well as the overall category last year. And previously was a GTA champion when he used to race a Ginetta some years ago as well. So he knows this championship inside and out. But at the moment, he's looking as though, if anything, he was quick at the start of the race, but he's dropping off a little bit now, isn't he? He made all that progress in the early stages, and now I think he's maybe struggling. last lap he did do the fastest lap of the race, 1 minute 47.972. The difficulty is, these conditions, you push hard on one lap and you're going to struggle to maintain that pace because you're going to overwork the tyres.
Yeah, potentially. These tyres, of course, are very, very big on these GT3 cars, but on a day like today, with a lot of sun and slightly higher track temperatures than potentially we've had at some previous rounds, the tyres will certainly be going off if the tyre pressures aren't perfectly set by the end of the stint.
Yeah, you are very much limited for the amount of tyres you can utilise in any one single day of racing. There we just briefly saw Gilbert Yates, who was leading Group GTC, back to Group GTH, and we've still got this brilliant battle going on between Stephen Walton and Philip Carter. At the moment it is still Stephen Walton that is leading the way. And so that will be for 3rd and 4th in Group GTH at the moment, as we reach the halfway point of the race. 12.5 minutes remain.
12.5 minutes remaining, just over halfway now. This battle is going to rage on, I think, because it seems like it keeps ebbing and flowing, as it looks like a very, very close, and up the inside of Agostini Hairpin, no, blocked off by the AMG this time, but it's the pressure is continually being piled on.
Yeah, and it's just allowing Tim Docker to begin to close in again a little bit more at the wheel of the Paddock Motorsport McLaren that sits behind. So Mercedes, McLaren fighting over 3rd, 4th and 5th in Group GTH at the moment, as we get another new fastest lap of the race to the race leader that time through, Sam Mayer-Loughnane, 1 minute 47.748. And that's important, Piers, because the fastest lap that you set in this race gives you the grid for the pit stop race later on. So at the moment, the race leader, Sam Mayer-Loughnane, that same car will start from pole for the pit stop race later.
Yeah, not by much. It could go to someone else at any point during this race, because the top three only separated that last lap by 0.2 of a second. Logan on the last lap was a 47.7, only a 47.8 for Radcliffe and a 47.9 for Orange. So only a couple of good corners could be the difference.
Yep, so here's Paul Bailey. This is our Group GTO leading car. So it's the Lamborghini is a GT3 spec car, but it is de-restricted for this weekend. So whatever they've done to either lambda sensors or ride heights or air restrictors on that car, it's not compliant with GT3 anymore, so it moves up to Group GTO, which Paul has been racing in all season, so it makes sense for him to do that, doesn't it? So he can still accumulate points in the group he's been racing all year, albeit he's not in the Brabham this weekend.
Yes, shame, of course. We saw last time out the Brabham had some technical issues and they haven't been rectified just yet. It looks like we won't see that car out for at least a few more rounds, but unfortunately. But it's one of those things, it's a very unique car, which means that parts are maybe slightly more hard to come by. Yeah,
it's always good to see it out there. It makes a really voice boisterous noise, doesn't it, as it heads around the circuit. 10.5 minutes of the race to go. Over the start finish line goes Sam Mayer-Loughnane, and that's another new fastest lap of the race, that time through 1 minute 47.658 for the race leader, and he's got to keep setting these times because Mark Radcliffe isn't going away in second place.
No, and again the lap times last time out are almost inseparable than second and third place, 47.8 and 47.8 as well from them.
Yep, so they're all very evenly matched as well. Matt Topham was a 48.3, Sasha Kakin was a 48.0, Darren Young was a 48.3, so yeah, they're all within half a second of each other, pushing hard. And as Piers was alluding to pre-race as well, is that you will still get the differences because of the way the car delivers the lap time differently, whether it's turbocharged or normally aspirated, front-engined, mid-engined, but equally as much the way they've set the car up. You know, do they want it to be strong at the start of the race and know it's going to drop off, or do you start it maybe on slightly lower pressures, tyre temperatures in this weather, and know that the car's going to get stronger as the race goes on? Yeah,
there's a number of different ways you can set the car up, and it's not even just the tyre pressures. You can actually set the cars up, you know, in the geometry, the caster camber, which will affect at what point in the race it is fast. You can go with a more aggressive setup, potentially with more camber, more caster, and maybe some different toes. And yes, it will be rapid over one lap or at the start of the race, but then you're going to work the tyres harder and be a bit slower maybe by the end of the race, especially in that pit stop race later on today. But even after 25 minutes, I mean, 25 minutes is still a long time, and the tyres are worked very, very hard on these GT3 machines that we're looking at right now, but all of the cars throughout the grid.
Yeah, so this is Seamus Jennings fighting away with Andre Borodin, who's having a really good run, actually, Andre Borodin. So number 24 McLaren is there in what will be 9th position at the moment, and he's hot on the heels of the man from Belfast, I think Andre was scheduled to have competed over the course of both days, but I think with the busy diary that he has, he wasn't able to compete yesterday, but good to see him out there on circuit today. And are we going to have a change for second place? Simon Orange was almost given an opportunity there by Mark Radcliffe, but it's not quite going to be the case. So it's still McLaren from McLaren, it's still Mark Radcliffe from Simon Orange as they fight for second and third, and that's just allowing Sam Mayer-Loughnane to get away. But last time through, Simon Orange took the fastest lap of the race, 1 minute 47.6 exactly.
But just half a tenth of a second a lap, and that car is going to go off into the barrier, is it? No, just about staying out the barrier. The Group GTH number 14 Greystone at McLaren.
Yeah, that was Philip Carter that had the moment. He rejoins the circuit directly ahead of the race leader. Watch out, Dusty Pirellis. Let the race leader go through. Clean the tyres up, but be conscious that you've also got Mark Radcliffe and Simon Orange in second and third place closing in, and those two are having their own little squabble. So Philip Carter, who is in his second season of racing, learning all of the time, and allows Mark Radcliffe to go through. But for Simon Orange, he just caught the back marker in the wrong place. He's going to have to wait until the exit of the corner.
Yeah, that'll be disappointing for Simon Orange, who was looking for a manoeuvre into second place at the start of the lap, but just the traffic of that car that had just been off didn't quite fall for him there. But such is the consistency of the drivers at the front. I mean, those last laps. Oh, it's a spin for Borodin.
That's down at the Wilson hairpin, I think.
It is, yeah, but such is the consistency of those drivers at the front. The last lap from Mayer-Loughlane was only 100 slower than his fastest lap of the race, and he's been pipped to the fastest lap by Simon Orange by less, or just over half a tenth of a second.
Yeah, so close, isn't it, between all of these cars and drivers, and just going to show, they're all right at the top of their game. They might be, in the case of the sprint racing, the amateur drivers who run very successful but busy businesses in the week, and this is their downtime, as strange as that sounds. It gives them something to focus on for the weekend, but not have to worry about their businesses. But they are all so very quick. We are really blessed in the UK. We've got so many quick amateur drivers that work with very quick pros to bring them on.
Yeah, it's almost slightly offensive that we call some of them amateurs.
It is, yeah.
It's their designated role, but these drivers are nearly as fast as quite a lot of potential pros out there.
Yeah, and you can see they are still having to work hard to try and work their way through the traffic as well. Mark Radcliffe this time is under big pressure from Simon Orange, who's had a better run through the last few little bits of back marker traffic. So it now means the McLaren's fighting over second and third, are back to being nose to tail once more. The Marshal's doing a brilliant job and waving the blue flags. I saw somebody